Please welcome the Scripps College Class of 2019. Now it is my honor to welcome our distinguished faculty and platform party.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Thompson, and I'm the chair of the Scripps College Board of Trustees. On behalf of all of the members of the board, many of whom are with me here on the platform, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Scripps College's 89th annual commencement exercise. To the class of 2019, today is a milestone for you. It is the culmination of years of hard work, growth, and self-discovery, and hopefully some fun. It is only the beginning of the next phase of pursuing your goals and your dreams. I congratulate you on your accomplishments, and I commend your focus and discipline in rising to the challenges of the academic rigor that defines a Scripps College education. Today, each of you takes the very significant step from student to graduate of the college, joining thousands of others who have gone before you. I sat among the candidates for graduation in 1972. As an alumna, I can tell you firsthand that Scripps, both the education that you've received and the friends that you have made, will continue to be an important part of your life after college. Scripps is an inspiring place that cultivates exceptional individuals. So we know that after your years at the college, with your new degree in hand, you are prepared and ready to make your unique contribution to the world beyond this campus. You will soon be joining notable Scripps alumna and past commencement speakers such as Gabby Giffords, 93, Noni Cream, 94, Elizabeth Robbins Turk, 83, Hannah Beth Jackson, 71, and Barbara Arnwine, 73, to name a few, as changemakers. We know that what you have learned at the college will transcend the years you have spent here, and that in time, and probably quite soon, you will play important roles in this complex and changing world. To the parents, families, and friends of today's graduates, I extend a very special welcome. I know the pride you are feeling today. Savor the moment and enjoy the ceremony. Now it is my pleasure to turn the proceedings over to the president of the college, Dr. Laura Teedens.
Thank you, Lynn. I'd like to echo Board Chair Lynn Thompson's warm welcome to today's commencement ceremony. We are thrilled to celebrate the accomplishments of our seniors today and to share this landmark occasion with you all. And yes, please all be seated. You see how everybody waits for my instructions around here. We know that the seats in this front section are filled with scholars, leaders, and changemakers. Seniors, you have pursued diverse interests and passions that have led to unexpected and transformative results over the past 4 years. Whether in the laboratory, in communities across the globe, in corporate boardrooms, in elected positions, or in domains that we can't even imagine yet, we can't wait to see what you will do in the next leg of your journey. The commencement program provides lists of the topics our seniors research to complete their thesis papers, projects, and performances. The senior thesis is the culmination of the Scripps educational experience, and it reflects the importance of inquiry, independent critical analysis, and faculty-student interaction at the college. Every year, our students' work demonstrates how the academic rigor of the Scripps curriculum distinguishes Scripps students and prepares them for a life of lifelong learning in whatever they pursue. So seniors, I congratulate you for completing such ambitious work. We are proud of your accomplishments. The thesis process is made possible, as you all know, by our distinguished faculty. They are both the authors and the guardians of the academic excellence on this campus. They are not only educators, but they serve as mentors, colleagues, and ambassadors for our students. I'm confident that each of our seniors graduating today has a story to tell about the ways in which a professor or professors have shaped and enriched their Scripps experience. So faculty, please rise and let us acknowledge you for ensuring a distinctive educational experience for every student at Scripps College. I would also like to thank the many Scripps staff who are committed to cultivating an exceptional educational and residential experience for our students. Scripps is so fortunate to have skilled and dedicated professionals who deliver a broad range of stimulating residential and co-curricular programs and activities to strengthen our connections to one another. Our talented, hardworking employees help students through personal and academic challenges. They ensure that students have healthy, flavorful meals every day. They provide meaningful work and volunteer experiences on and off campus to prepare our students for their careers and for their lives. They ensure a beautiful campus environment that cultivates curiosity and creates community. In short, our staff are here to ensure that our students' college experience is exceptional, unique, and memorable. The ceremony today and all of the other events throughout the weekend simply could not happen without so much work behind the scenes. So please join me in thanking our staff for their ongoing service to the college. Finally, I want to recognize the many parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, godparents, and friends here today. Family and friends, you supported our seniors along their educational journeys, often from grade school all the way through now college. 4 years ago, you entrusted a loved one to us, and then you partnered with us to help them maximize their college experience, to realize their academic potential, and to continue their personal growth. We know that your contributions, support, and encouragement have been invaluable, and we thank you, all of you, for everything you have done to prepare the graduates for today. Thank you. Finally, seniors, I would like to thank you for embodying the hopes and dreams of Scripps founder Ellen Browning Scripps, who envisioned an educational community that would equip its students to live lives of leadership, service, integrity, and creativity. Through you, Scripps is continuing its tradition of celebrating the life of the mind, cultivating creativity, and developing humane and compassionate leaders for the future. Seniors, you have earned the recognition and honor that you will receive today. It represents years of developing your work ethic, of overcoming challenges, and of celebrating your growth. Your Scripps experience has made you stronger. It's made you better prepared, more knowledgeable, and more persuasive advocates for the causes you believe in and for the careers you will pursue. You may recall years ago when you arrived on campus, you went to a session, and our Dean of Faculty, Amy Marcus Newhall, said to you, as she says to all incoming classes and their families, "This campus is your home away from home." You have given Scripps a piece of yourself in your time here, and undoubtedly, whether you like it or not, you will take some of Scripps with you wherever you go next. We hope that you will come back and see us, that you will talk with future classes, that you will share your new experiences, your lessons learned, your victories, and also your challenges. As a Scripps alumni, you become an important resource for the next set of students, for the future yous of the world. Please continue the legacy of leadership you began during your time here by volunteering to mentor, to interview applicants, to serve on alumni leadership committees, to host interns, and to speak on panels. We want to hear from you. You are now a member of a powerful network of alumni who are leading organizations, communities, and movements across the globe, and who are eager to help you do that too. Because you leave here with confidence, courage, and hope, I look forward to what of that you will bring back to the Scripps community. I'm now pleased to introduce our senior class speaker. Kira Knowles-Gabriel is from South Pasadena, California, and she transferred to Scripps College her sophomore year. At Scripps, she majored in economics and minored in history and Spanish. Kira studied abroad in Ecuador, where she researched the dollarization of the Ecuadorian economy. She wrote her senior thesis on behavioral finance, focusing on investor behaviors during the 2008-09 financial crisis. Kira has had several leadership roles while at Scripps. She was an ambassador for the Office of Admissions, so she gave campus tours to prospective students and their families. She was a manager for the Scripps Outdoor Wilderness Leaders, and she was a leader for the Claremont College's outdoor club called On the Loose. Kira enjoyed playing on the intramural ultimate frisbee team and lifting weights in her spare time. Strong in many ways. After graduation, Kira will work for On-Prem, a boutique consulting firm in Los Angeles, and she plans to pursue a master's in economics with a focus on either behavioral or historical economics. Please join me in welcoming Kira to the commencement stage.
Something happened in college, and I know what you think I'm going to say, which is I grew or I became analytical, but it's not that. I became a crier. It's true. I didn't used to cry at things in high school, only really about things that happened to me. But then I saw the craziest sunset over Balch Auditorium. And I watched my friend perform in her a cappella group, and I listened to post-grad plans ranging from getting a PhD to intentionally getting lost. And I watched my friend present her thesis, and I couldn't help myself. I think I became a crier here because such moving things have happened here. I think going to Scripps is hard, for a lot of reasons. I was once told that Scripps used to produce women who went on to become expensive wives who managed philanthropies. Entrenched in that idea, of course, is whiteness and wealth and heterosexuality. Those core tenets are still a part of our school and still a part of the way the world views us. It's troubling, to say the least, that our career center is at the middle of Seal Court, where SCORE and the OSC are tucked away. And it's infuriating every time someone calls us the girls' school. It erases the presence of our incredible trans and non-binary students, and it ignores the academic rigor of our college. And that part of going to a historically women's college is especially hard here in the middle of other co-ed colleges. We are reminded of that perception constantly, but it comes from within, too. It sucks that if any of us were to go on a tour of Scripps just 2 years ago, we saw the pool and not an academic building because we were selling ourselves as a resort and not as an academic institution. And that's what the history of Scripps has been for so long. Even looking around at our ever Instagrammable campus, this was constructed on the ideas that women needed a beautiful space to learn. And it's enraging because we are told over and over again that we are weaker and gentler and lesser. I firmly believe that every graduate here today has been made to feel lesser for going to this school or even for who they are. And let me make one thing clear. That perception is not about this college. Our fellow consortium members love to remind us about our admissions rate or how big their endowments are. But it's not about those rankings, which I might add are inherently sexist and racist. It's about the type of student who chooses this space. It's about the person in your Writing 50 class who points out a symbol in a short story not even your professor noticed. It's about the RAs and the tour guides striking for crucial access to mental health resources and respect for our marginalized students. Even in writing this speech, I received feedback from students of color, trans, and gender nonconforming students who corrected my terminology and my ideas, who continue to work to be seen and be heard even on their graduation day. I am deeply grateful for those students. The students who not only don't ask for permission, they don't want it. The students who work here and demand to be seen and be heard, and those are the people that every oppressive system wants to feel small. It's not about the school. It's about the people who go to this school. It's about us. I am a transfer student. I transferred schools because I wanted a space filled with students who would challenge me to be better every day. And I got a little more than I bargained for when I came to Scripps. I did not expect just how difficult it would be being around amazing people all of the time. I think all of us can think of a dear friend who is better than us at everything. From eyeliner to essays to perseverance, they are sitting here in the audience. And at first that was really unchill. My immediate reaction was to be jealous or catty or mean, which of course just made me more unhappy and a worse person. And of course at Scripps, everyone is like that. And there's so many human beings around you who are so amazing. Your only option is to learn from them. There is no other option. Otherwise, you will be sad all of the time and anytime you meet someone new. And you have to learn to love learning from them. So being around the people who applied to and chose Scripps, students who chose this college's difficult combination of identities, you are forced into a population of students who are outspoken and passionate and smart and interesting. And they blow you away. You see conversations leave the classroom led by marginalized students who, to quote a comment I got on this speech, are constantly harmed by this institution, yet improve it year after year. Like the speaker series hosted by the Disability, Illness, and Difference Alliance, you see it in the actions our peers have taken, from starting the Scripps Scraps resale program and pushing for a carbon commitment, to rallying to end Scripps' complicity in the prison industrial complex. The students here are making changes to this institution. You see students create changes to the drinking policies and find ways to make every club and activity accessible and open to all, including the literal accessibility of the dorms. You see it in Watuasi not only changing their name to include all gender identities, but also in standing against racist transphobia on these campuses. You see it in Cafe Con Leche and the Asian American Student Union hosting event after event, creating communities and taking up space on this campus. You see it in the outdoor clubs taking away the costs of going outside. You go to the Motley and you get coffee and funding for anything that furthers the mission of intersectional feminism. You even see students emptying the compost bins in the kitchen. These are changes for the better. What you have done here, from calling out the subtle racism of your friend, to instituting institutional change, to even existing here as a person of color, as queer, as disabled, as first gen, what you have done here is amazing. So if our peers and our friends are as incredible as we know they are, how could all of this shame that is put on us as students of a historically women's college, how could it stick? you look at your best friends and they're kind and smart and funny and so weird and perfect. And how dare anyone try to make them feel lesser? And I think that's what makes going here so difficult. Because you can't just accept what the rest of the world says or believes about you, because you have so much evidence to the contrary. You can't accept other people or institutions or systems trying to make you feel small, because your peers at Scripps have encouraged you to confidently take up space in this world, and there's no way you could squish yourself back down to being small and being lesser. Our existence and our joy about our own and our friends' existence is flipping off every hegemonic system that tells us to be small. The first thing you learn at Scripps is to not even bother trying to compete with your peers, because you just won't be able to. And so you embrace that lack of competition and start to learn from and collaborate with your peers. And maybe more importantly, you turn inward and you find your own value in order to actually appreciate the people around you. And when that happens, something changes. You stop seeing outside judgments and you only see what is about Scripps and your peers and your friends and yourself. So the Scripps marketing department will have you believe that we are a resort. Quite a few 5C alums think we are about to get our MRS degrees, and the other schools will tell you that we are the girls' school. And again, it's not about this school. It's about people like us. They want us to feel small. But within each other, we just find joy and inspiration and awe and passion. This school and this experience is just a microcosm of the rest of our lives. Whatever any of our identities are, people will have us believe that we are lesser. But in these formative years at Scripps, we've had quite a bit of practice pushing back and rejecting that conclusion. To exist in joy and in awe of one another is a rebellion. Think of your friends. Think of your friends and think of yourself and look at where you are. And you know you don't need me to tell you that you are amazing. Truly, truly incredible folks who have endured and thrived here. And if you can do it at Scripps, you can do it anywhere. No part of attending this institution makes it easy, except dining, maintenance, and grounds. So I've been crying, as I mentioned. Every moment that my friends have blown me away. A dear friend of mine, Natalie Lilly, once said, "You can be strong and gentle at the same time." And that's what you learn at Scripps. I think that's why I've become a crier. It's a show of vulnerability and pride at my friend's strength, which I could only express so genuinely if I believed I am as strong as they are. At this school, you learn to be strong and smart and complicated, and you learn to find elation in your peers and in their success. Being gentle with ourselves and the people we love in the face of oppression is an incredible display of strength. You become gentle and strong. I am fiercely proud that I went to Scripps, and fiercely proud that I walk amongst all of you today. Our peers and our professors and the way we have had to push back against and defend this institution has given us, I think, the ability to think clearly and independently about ourselves and about the world around us, and the ability to live shoving back against every system that says we or anyone else is lesser, confidently, courageously, hopefully, and I would add, strongly, gently, and joyously. Thank you.
It is now my honor to introduce our 2019 commencement speaker and a Scripps alumna from the class of 1997, Poppy McDonald. I would like to mention that the Scripps commencement speaker selection process differs from that of many other institutions, and that here the process is student-driven, and the students strive to find a speaker that captures the values of the graduating class. I would like to acknowledge the students who led that process over the past year, Janvi Kotari and Clarissa Ann Ilagan, who are the senior class co-presidents and chairs of the selection committee. Poppy McDonald is the president of USA Facts, the nonpartisan, nonprofit civic initiative and source for well-visualized data on the American people and how we are doing as a nation. They lead an effort to help Americans ground their democratic debate in facts. Ms. McDonald served as a president and chief operating officer of Politico USA. In that role, she led the business strategy for the launch of Politico Pro, which now accounts for over half of its revenue and continues to generate double-digit growth for the company year over year. Poppy McDonald helped lead geographic expansion and significant enhancements to the portfolio of tools and services available to subscribers, including Legislative Compass and custom brand programs like Women Rule and What Works. At Politico, and previously as publisher of the National Journal, Ms. McDonald has led media companies focused on in-depth coverage of politics and policy and in ensuring transparency in government. As a partner at Gallup Inc., she led the healthcare practice and was part of the team that launched Gallup's World Poll to create more transparency and context around commonalities and differences among regions of the world. Ms. McDonald began her career serving members of Congress representing her Pacific Northwest hometown on both the Senate and House sides of Capitol Hill. And she's happy to be back in the Northwest, enjoying Seattle and its surrounds with her husband and 2 children. A couple of years ago, Ms. McDonald visited campus to share her professional experiences and insights with students, and she made a significant impact on those who spent time with her. One of our seniors said, "I met Poppy when she came to campus for a LASPA Center event 2 years ago. She had a lot of great insight into what it means to be a leader and is clearly passionate about Scripps. I think her class will really enjoy her address." Another student stated, "Having an alumna of Scripps as this class of 2019's commencement speaker was important to me. And I'm thrilled to have Poppy McDonald because of the important work she does as president of USA Facts. Given the current climate of alternative facts and fake news, a nonpartisan, data-driven organization like USA Facts is more relevant than ever." It's been a great pleasure for me to get to know Poppy over the last 3 years, and I found her to be a thoughtful and compassionate leader, a visionary entrepreneur, an influential and persuasive advocate, and, quite simply, a wonderful example of the confident, courageous, and hopeful alumna that Scripps produces, and we are so pleased to have us here with us today. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our 2019 commencement speaker, Poppy McDonald.
Good evening. These speeches generally open with a long list of acknowledgments, and for good reason. because there's something very special happening here today. And no one here had less to do with it than I did. So before I say anything else, please let me say, President Tedens, distinguished faculty, distinguished family, parents, friends, and most importantly, the class of 2019, congratulations, and thank you so much for the chance to be a tiny part of your very big day. It's a great honor to be invited back to Scripps, woohoo, and to join you on Elm Tree Lawn as you embark on the next step in your life journey. Commencement speakers are required to tell you that a commencement is a beginning, not an end. Many of you already know exactly what comes next in your plan. I know this because when I visited many of you on campus in the fall of 2017, you were hungry for advice about how to achieve your incredibly detailed, well-researched career goals. But I bet there are a few of you who are like I was on graduation day, uncertain about which trail you would blaze. I graduated with no job and no idea what would come next. Thank you. All I know is that I had a flight the next morning to Washington, D.C., and I was going to be living in a group house I had never seen with a group of people I had never met. A friend found a roommate wanted index card that had been tacked to the bulletin board in the basement of the U.S. House of Representatives, a sort of prehistoric Craigslist for nerds like me. I was happy with Metro accessible, which means near the subway, but they had me at furnished room for $330 a month. I was looking forward to the next adventure with a goal of working on Capitol Hill, in some office, perhaps any office, just to wedge my foot in the door. That was my entire plan. I know Scripps students of today are thinking further ahead. I had the privilege of visiting campus recently for the Scripps in Residence program, and I couldn't believe it when first-year students were coming in asking me for career advice based on a chosen profession. As a first year, I didn't even know my major. In my first year at Scripps, my idea of planning ahead was remembering to set my alarm on Saturday evening so I could make it to Sunday brunch before the cafeteria closed. While some of you may have your next steps planned and others are still deciding, I know that all of you have big, ambitious goals for yourselves and the impact you hope to make on the world. And it's my job to remind you, thanks to your time here at Scripps, you are already much closer to those goals than you may realize. This is a good time to stop and reflect on how far you've come already. I bet that all of you worked very hard to get here. And I bet that some of you, like me, are the first person in your family to graduate from college. My parents were 19 and 20 when I was born, and raising a child was unexpected for them. They wanted to offer me the best life, as parents do, but even in their wildest dreams, didn't think I could go to a school like Scripps. So they encouraged me to think about jobs that were available to me with just a high school diploma. When I decided I wanted to go to college, my family was supportive, but finances were tight. So community college seemed like the right next step. In one of the great fortuitous moments of my young life, a friend's father thought that I should broaden my pursuits and encouraged me to set up a meeting with him. I had not realized he was Dean of Admissions at Willamette University in my hometown of Salem, Oregon. He looked over my transcripts, explained financial aid, and wrote a list of colleges he thought I might like to attend. He pointed out, and I did put a women's college on there. "Oh, Mr. Sumner," I explained, "you don't know me very well. I have no problem speaking up with men in the room." He told me, in the kindest way possible, I had no idea what it meant to attend a women's college, and I had better look into it a bit more closely. People talk about how mind-opening college is, but I had no idea how limited my thinking had been. My first day in class of Scripps, I sat in my very first women's history course. and Professor Liss asked us all to go around and give our definition of feminism. I recall thinking it was a derogatory word, but I didn't know exactly why. Thank goodness she didn't call on me first, because I began to hear my classmates describe it as empowering, defined in some ways as women leading whatever life they choose, and without limits, and WOA. And when I realized too late that everyone studied abroad their junior year, only I didn't have enough credits in Spanish, I came back to tell her that I had signed up for the only 2 countries where Scripps didn't offer the language, but did offer a study abroad program. Professor Liss, thank you, she said she would indulge me in Nepal, but then I needed to do a semester in DC to understand how my history degree could lead to a future career. And it was in DC, with an internship at the McLaughlin Group, one of the first of its kind media roundtable shows like Meet the Press, that I had an epiphany. People would actually pay me to follow the news, write about it, and explain it to the public. So I could continue the learning and analysis that began in those first year at Scripps, and perhaps turn them into some kind of career. So how did I get from that group house to this stage? I'm not going to shower you with aspirational pointers like, make $1 million by the time you're 30, or be effortlessly chic. Those sound great, but how do you actually do it? Rather, I'm going to share with you 5 practical lessons that I hope will be a foundation for your success. First, some practical advice. Follow a budget. I got my first job on Capitol Hill in a very glamorous position of answering phones and constituent mail at a premium total compensation package of $19,000, which in today's dollars translates to $19,000. And after accounting for my rent, utilities, and student loan payments, I had $15 of discretionary income every 2 weeks. True story, $15 to burn. That's where another lesson I learned at the Claremont colleges came in. Find out which congressional briefings and receptions offer free food. But more importantly, build your lifestyle based on what you make for a living. There's a lot of pressure to wonder how some people can afford things that you can't, or to try to keep up with your friends. If you find yourself wondering how someone else is affording so much more than you, keep in mind the answer might be credit card debt. So never make decisions about what you should be spending based on what someone else is spending. Second pearl of wisdom, introduce yourself to as many people, ideas, and opportunities as possible. Network. And not just in the professional sense of the word. Get out of your comfort zone of the people you know, the people you work with, and the people who largely share your same views. Live in a group house with strangers. Go places where you don't know anyone. Attend receptions of organizations you want to know more about. Volunteer and don't bring a friend with you. The most important thing you may hear me say today is that if you do this right, you may never have to apply for a job. I didn't. After I got my foot in the door on Capitol Hill, I have never had to apply for another job. Seriously, for every position I have held since, I certainly had to interview and strongly advocate for myself to prove I was the right choice for the role, absolutely. But every job opportunity has come to me based on the network I formed, introducing myself to new people, places, and experiences. From launching the World Poll for Gallup, to spearheading Politico's first subscription business, to my role as president of 2 major DC media companies. These opportunities, which felt like very big leaps for me at the time, came because I followed this rule: meet new people, forge strong relationships, and earn their respect and trust. Third piece of advice, Raise your hand for every opportunity that interests you and keep raising it, even those you think you may not be qualified for, and especially for the ones you think others will consider you underqualified. The opportunities that interest you are the best way to make the biggest leaps forward. And the more you raise your hand, the better chance the right person will notice you and your effort. Early in my career, when I worked for a US Senator, all I did was answer constituent mail. When the press secretary job opened up, although it was my dream job, it never occurred to me that I would be considered qualified for the job. However, as the candidates began arriving, I saw a woman walk in to interview who had my same role for another member of Congress. It literally took my peer raising her hand to remind me to raise my own. And then I began reading every major newspaper every morning, learned the names of reporters on every beat, wrote a sample press release that ended up being used in place of the one that had been written by the existing staff. And I landed the press secretary job. But suffice it to say, when I landed the job, I didn't knock it out of the park from day one. In my first day as press secretary, a reporter called, and I decided it would be a good idea to explain why I thought the senator hadn't made up his mind about something as important as the impeachment of President Clinton. The chief of staff called me in to ask me why I had decided to talk to a reporter on my very first day on the job, and his very heated response was along the lines of, "You got very lucky because you happen to be right, but if this happens again, you will be fired." Take a risk and go for a big job, but know you will make mistakes. Then learn the lessons of those mistakes. And because you've had the great fortune to receive a Scripps education, ask yourself every day if you are making a positive impact on the people and community around you. All of us want to lead a life of impact. All of us want to make a difference in the world. But one of the things you learn along the way is that there are numerous ways to do that. When you commit to something, dedicate yourself to making an impact and decide if the sacrifices are worth it. Volunteer, serve, take the hard jobs, build something out of nothing, whatever that means to you. The most rewarding moments of my career were when I built something that did not exist. The World Poll for Gallup, the first subscription business for Politico, and now building a national audience for USA Facts. Today, a life of impact for me means ensuring that decisions driving our democracy are based on the best possible data. I started working in Congress because I believe in the democracy that made my American dream possible. USA Facts was started out of a belief that information about how our federal, state, and local governments spend money to improve the lives of Americans should be accessible to elected officials and to the public. And while people may disagree about the right way to move our country forward, debates should begin with agreement on indisputable facts. And finally, remember that at the end of the day, who you are as a person matters more than what you do as a career. Every interaction you have matters. Leave your workplace, the people you meet, and your world better than you found it. My future path was impacted because a friend's father saw my potential, made time to learn more about my goals, and because he took time to outline possibilities I hadn't imagined and helped me believe I could achieve them. Be that person for someone else. Lift another person up along the way and make it a habit. That is why impact for me also means serving as a board member of an organization called Running Start. It's dedicated to helping young women get equipped to run for office early. We are constantly reminded of all the many ways the world is designed for men, not for us. Despite the fact that women are half of the US population, and even with a record number of women in Congress, we still only make up 23% of an elected body designed to represent us. We still haven't had a woman in the Oval Office, And yet we know from research published in Harvard Business Review that countries led by a woman have an average of 4% higher economic growth. And women are still just 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs. However, McKinsey has found that companies with more women in top management perform 15% better than the industry median. And as I'm sure you all followed, because spacesuits were designed for men, a historic first all-women spacewalk had to be canceled. Here, too, you have an advantage. I did, too. Because while we may be in a world designed for men, we went to a school designed for women. That means we've gotten a glimpse of what a more equal world should look like. And with that, I believe, comes a responsibility. Take what you've learned here at Scripps and bring it with you, wherever you go, whether that's moving to a new city, in a group house full of strangers, or whatever that might be in your next chapter. Wherever you go, and I bet you will go far, help another person get there too. That's the value of a Scripps education. Giving students the ability to think clearly and independently was one part of Ellen Browning Scripps' vision. But empowering us to live confidently, courageously, and hopefully was too. You have learned the importance of envisioning a better world, and you have been endowed with the courage and the confidence to be part of making that a reality. It's not even gold. It's platinum. It's invaluable. It's your superpower because you were lucky enough to get here. There is no one more qualified to lead a life of impact than you. That is why I am so excited to see what you do and where you go, and why I am so honored to be with you here at the beginning of whatever journey you start today. Thank you. It is truly an honor to be part of the final day in your journey at Scripps that sends you off to the world to lead. Congratulations, class of 2019.
Poppy, thank you so much for your inspiring remarks. We're now going to proceed with the conferring of degrees. The class of 2019 will be presented by Vice President and Dean of Faculty, Amy Marcus Newhall. The degrees will be conferred by President Laura Tedens with the assistance of Vice President and Dean of Students, Charlotte Johnson.
Told me to go down. One more time. President Tedens, I have the honor of presenting 235 candidates who have been recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees for the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Graduates, as I call your name, please come on stage to receive your diploma. Sandra Dahl Abruzzo, summa cum laude. Monica Acosta. Jenna Mary Acutt. Jana Ackers in absentia. Hannah Elizabeth Alalu, summa cum laude. Gretchen Pauline Alexander, cum laude. Maya Almogi, summa cum laude. Antura Anand, cum laude. Mary Alexandra Von Antel, magna cum laude. Diana Ariola. Lauren Yun Cook Au, summa cum laude. Susanna Elizabeth Barrett, summa cum laude. Shreya Basu. Francesca Karen Beach, cum laude. Wynne Gentry Becker, cum laude. Emma Bacala, cum laude. Catalina Biesman Simmons, in absentia, magna cum laude. Jessica Bird. Madison Bloomer. Martha Ann Bono, cum laude. Grace Julia Breckenridge. Paige Miyamura Broderick. Emily Rose Brooks, cum laude. Olivia Annette Brown. Karina Martins Bucciarelli, cum laude. Alexandra Joan Bush, cum laude. Amy Rose Buswell, cum laude. Milena Carruthers, magna cum laude. Catherine Margaret Cashin, cum laude. Arya Servart Chatterjee, summa cum laude. Elise Chan. Catherine Elizabeth Janai Ching, cum laude. Elizabeth Se Yoon Cho. Dominique Gabrielle Chua, in absentia. Elizabeth Myung Hae Chun, summa cum laude. Lauren Alexandra Kalela, cum laude. Emily Einaudi Collins, cum laude. Emma Starr Cornwell. Maureen Cowie, cum laude. Rowan Cox Rubian. Izzy Marie Montague Crouch, cum laude. Emma Crusenberry. Valerie Nicole DeFotis, cum laude. Marcela Guedes da Silva. Delaney Marie Dawson, magna cum laude. Mackenzie Loveland Deutsch, cum laude. Emma Rachel Dewberry, cum laude. Elena Rose DiPianco, magna cum laude. Catherine Joan Easton. Jessie Gabrielle Edwards. Nora Liz Elizami. Chloe Gansel Elliott. Emma Margaret Elliott, cum laude. Emma Etnier. Jessica Yu, cum laude. Caitlin Welty Fick. Kayla Alins Fong, cum laude. Megan Lee Fueling, cum laude. Kira Gabriel, cum laude. Michaela Gallardo. Elizabeth Galvan. Gabrielle Sara Garcia, magna cum laude. Haley Gibbs. Melville Marius Gilchrist, magna cum laude. Catherine Glah. Georgia Godley Campbell, cum laude. Alicia Claire Good Allen. Clara Muriel Auguste Gorick, magna cum laude. Katie Yuri Graham, cum laude. Megan Elizabeth Gratke, cum laude. Nicole Samantha Greenberg. Megan Rye Graywall, cum laude. Julia Griffin, magna cum laude. Nishara Tharoni Gunasekara. Meghna Gupta. Romanshi Gupta. Megan Gwynn. Alexandra Noble Hammond, cum laude. Casey Beamish Harris, cum laude. Ray Yan Yan Harris. Avery Blackburn Harwood, cum laude. Daniela Tyler Henry. Jennifer Hillier, cum laude. Anita Lillian Ho. Madison Hobbs, cum laude. Jillian Grace Holzer, cum laude. Sarah Morley Horder, cum laude. Jody Horowitz, cum laude. Annabelle Ho, cum laude. Chelsea Huang. Catherine Stefania Hughes, cum laude. Megan Noelani Ishii, summa cum laude. Yasmin Istanbuli. Madison Elizabeth Ivy. Caroline Brennan Jager. Ashley Caroline Jones in absentia. Sansi Ka'ahui. Gunith Kaur, cum laude. Hannah Lucia Morales Kent. Kevin Ireland Kilroy, cum laude. Gretchen Kiyoshis. Dina Nicole Kleemeyer. Shannon Marie Klotz, cum laude. Natalie Ruth Knops, magna cum laude. Annalise Liu Ko, cum laude. Emily Koenig. Julie Marie Korsmeyer. Jamvi Kutari, cum laude. Athmika Lakshmi Krishnan, cum laude. Evelyn Valanair Larson. Amanda Kathleen Larson, cum laude. Emily Sophia Levine, summa cum laude. Hannah Lee in absentia, summa cum laude. Haley Seung-eun Lee. Unji Bria Lee, cum laude. Elizabeth Hart Leung, cum laude. Greer Brian Levin, cum laude. Jenna Floricel Lewenstein, cum laude. Elizabeth Katie Lewis, cum laude. Hannah Lewis, cum laude. Rebecca Francis Haim Lee, summa cum laude. Natalie Angelie O'Connell Lilly. Xinghui Catherine Jiaming Lin. Stephanie Lin, magna cum laude. Elise Florence Lindahl. Dorothy Craven Linneman, summa cum laude. Kristen Melissa Liu. Longfair Liu, cum laude. Destiny De Leon Lockhart. Emma Gabriella Loftus, cum laude. Emily Victoria McCune. Jerry Rose Mallory. Lori Eva Mankoff, magna cum laude. Natalie Elizabeth Marsh, cum laude. Samantha Zhang Lien Martin, magna cum laude. Julia Alexandra Martinez. Catherine Renee Mayer, summa cum laude. Idema Beladago. Monet McGrady. Amani Mehra. Kripa Sanjay Mehta. Carla Gabriela Mejia Rivera, cum laude. Alyssa Bridwell Mers, magna cum laude. Taylor Rose Milana, cum laude. Kiera Renee Mitchell. Rachel Mora Mochama. Layla Maring. Kristen Elizabeth Moore, cum laude. Nina Catherine Mortensen. Matilda Jane Massal, cum laude. Darlene Vivian Nguyen, cum laude. Petal Niles, cum laude. Anna Mieko Nishioka, magna cum laude. Meredith Nicole Nix, summa cum laude. Josephine Rose Nordhoff Beard. Stephanie Nunez, cum laude. Megan Eleni O'Brien, cum laude. Gabriela Victoria Ochoa. Tirza Joe Akrak Conradi, summa cum laude. Brittany Mika Okamura, cum laude. Ifunanya Ozi Okeke. Sandro Javier Ortega Reek, magna cum laude. Olivia Owens, cum laude. Sophia Lisette Padilla. Olivia Margaret Palenskar, cum laude. Reina Patel. Susana Perez Arias, cum laude. Giovanna Mia Pericone, summa cum laude. Madeline Grace Peterson, cum laude. Emily Patillon, in absentia. Bo Yen Emogene Pham. Jacobeth Ponce. Olivia Ray Pritchard, cum laude. Claire Alexandria Puxta, cum laude. Natalie Sims Queck, magna cum laude. Xenia Lakshmi Rangaswamy, cum laude. Krithika Rao, summa cum laude. Bella Ratner, cum laude. Natalie Reeves, magna cum laude. Josephine Wren, cum laude. Alexandria Reyes. Vanessa Reyes Salazar, cum laude. Cindy Azur Reska. Anabelo Ribeiro de Oliveira, cum laude. Greta Richardson. Grace Ritchie. Amanda Morgan Riley, cum laude. Alexandra Elena Rivera. Yasmin Sophia Roberts, cum laude. Megan Barton Roderick in absentia, cum laude. Linnea Claire Rosenberg. Roxanne Rosso Marsh. Julia Lauren Reuter. Sophia Leah Tema Russell. Annabelle Claire Sadoff, cum laude. Desiree Marie Pita Santos, summa cum laude. Alicia Saraki. Yadira Maritza Schrom, cum laude. Laurel Shy. Alexandra Elizabeth Scudder. Zhuan Sheng. Lauren Shoemaker, magna cum laude. Manya Singh. Hannah Linnea Scott. Ekaterina Caitlin Grace Smith. Sienna Sorensen, in absentia, cum laude. Sana Shra, cum laude. Isha Srinivasan. Emma Hasler Stacy, cum laude. Morgan Catherine Stewart, magna cum laude. Daisy Lloyd Stone. Leanne Renee Sturgeon, magna cum laude. Sarah Elizabeth Tadlock, in absentia. Amanda Lauren Tamayo. Chu Hua Tong. Ran Tao, magna cum laude. Julia Ashlyn Tice, cum laude. Ellen Joyce Thompson. Danielle Hannah Tishkoff Chittister, summa cum laude. Allison Gina Toe, magna cum laude. Catherine Ching Elizabeth Cheung, cum laude. Mary Van Skoik, cum laude. Anna Vitomorov. Madison Leah Wagner, summa cum laude. Becca Mary Wayness, cum laude. Callie Kamiko Walsh, cum laude. Grace Zhishue Wong, cum laude. Hannah Leah Weissler, magna cum laude. Lane Elizabeth Wells, cum laude. Claire Carlson Wendell, cum laude. Sullivan Jane Whiteley, summa cum laude. Corey Carter Wilson, magna cum laude. Olivia Chian Wu. Crystal Xiong. Sijoa Shing, cum laude. Hey In Irene Yi. Clarissa Ann Cruz Elogan, cum laude. Perrin Elizabeth York. Emily Claire Uguchi. Alice Zhang. Maya Lucy Zoe, cum laude. Charlene Lizu. Chin Lu Zhu, cum laude.
Okay, graduates, please stand. Everyone ready? This is the important part. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Scripps College, I hereby confer upon each of you the degree Bachelor of Arts. Please move your tassels from the right to the left. Graduates, please take your seats. After all that excitement, we have just one thing left to do, which is that I, as I do to every graduating class, need to give you a charge. And so here is my charge to you, class of 2019. My charge is seek friends, not enemies. Yep, seek friends, not enemies. All right, I guess the laugh is because this seems like sort of obvious or odd advice. After all, has anyone ever told you to go seek some enemies? When you first went off to school, did someone say, well, I hope you make some new enemies? When your family came to visit you over family weekend, did they ask to meet your enemies? No, but they probably did want to meet your friends. So it may seem to you that you have been seeking friends all along, so why would I feel the need to advise you to do so and advise you against seeking your enemies? Well, when I look at the world around us, and even sometimes when I look right here locally in Claremont, I see a tendency to magnify and inadvertently empower our enemies through our chosen methods of confrontation. At times, I see us defining ourselves, our goals, our progress, and our movements by those we oppose, by those we disagree with, those we see as an obstacle, those who we can vilify, those we wish to abandon, and those we try to silence. I challenge you to engage the world in a different way, to define yourselves and your goals by those you stand with, by that which you want, by those who have helped you achieve so much, and by those who have the potential to help you even more. What if we sought a better world by championing who and what we see as good, as opposed to tearing down who and what we see as bad? What if we looked at the people who seem to be blockades and instead of vilifying them, sought to understand them and looked for the avenues and paths along which collaboration and cooperation could advance our shared goals? That's what I mean by seeking friends, not enemies. I don't want you to ignore problems, and you must address injustice. But I do mean that instead of focusing on frustration, loss, and immorality, that you focus on hope, gain, and good. My guess is, if you can do that, you will accomplish so much more, you will engage and persuade so many more, and that you will live a life of confidence, courage, and hope. Now, behind me, there are faculty who have certainly spent time in their classes talking to you about the narrative form. We know that the story is always easier to tell when there's a good, juicy villain. So I get it. I really understand the inclination to identify the bad guy and then make that bad guy as evil as can be. But as effective as this is as a narrative form, it doesn't work that well for providing the life and the society that I know you seek. For one thing, if you seek the enemy, you include it in your narrative, and that means you must describe your enemy's perspective. And by doing so, you are giving voice and power to the very thing that you seek to fight, change, or diminish. When you seek those enemies, you give them power and legitimacy. You convey that their perspective should be taken seriously, and you repeat and publicize their view of the issues. Why repeat what you know to be wrong? Second, it's really hard to be accurate about your enemies. You just end up being sarcastic, using hyperbole, and misattributing motives. I get that too. That's kind of the fun of talking about your enemies. But when you're inaccurate, you discredit yourself, and each time you make it less likely that your adversaries will listen to you, and you miss an opportunity to get what you want done. Once we define someone as morally inferior, the potential for learning, persuasion, and for collaboration almost immediately and completely disappear. I've never seen anyone learn from being shamed. Third, true to the narrative form, once an enemy is defined, there has to be a winner and a loser. And so instead of working on the problems we're trying to face, and instead of making change or producing the world we want to see, we end up expending a lot of energy on symbolic contests that are ultimately only about declaring victory, and these can come at quite a devastating loss. So seeking enemies doesn't sound that great, but what about seeking friends? What does that look like? And this may also seem like a very funny question to ask today of all days. Right here, right now, you know exactly what it looks like to seek friends. As your time at Scripps winds down, I know that each and every one of you have made some incredible friends. Some of these friendships happen because you sought them out, and others of them happened really quite accidentally. With each of them, whether purposeful or not, you share a bond born of your experience here at Scripps, and I hope for you and for the college that you will remain friends with some of these forever. I also know that you will find many more friends through other Scripps alumni throughout your lives. The Scripps Alumni Association is small, but it is mighty, and they are enthusiastic about welcoming you into their community. Whether at an official alumni event or when you encounter an alum sort of randomly in your personal or professional network, you will always be greeted with a hug and a smile. This community will be a source of friendship and support for you, and I hope you will use that fully. But living your life in a manner where you seek friends is about more than actually just having friends. It's really about the power of affiliation and hope to produce a better world. Consider for a moment those who have championed you and those who you have chosen to champion. There is simply nothing like confidence in and compassion for others to give a cause a life and for bringing people along. So how does one go about this seeking of friends? Well, first, look for people to respect, admire, appreciate, and emulate. They are everywhere. And then talk about them. Tell them why they motivate you. Tell others all about them. Remind yourself. Seek to understand what is amazing about them. Let yourself be inspired. Share your impressions. Create life lessons for yourself and others based on the stories of these amazing people. Second, and it's really been a theme for today, help someone. Keep your eye out for someone not having their best day or even just their best moment. And what could you do to make a difference? This does not have to be a grandiose act of generosity or sacrifice. Many small gestures can add up to so much more. Next, decide that someone with whom you disagree or someone who you see as really the obstacle to what you are trying to get done, come to see them as your best chance at success. Build a relationship with them, understand their perspective, and find the aspects of them that you truly do appreciate. And then let those characteristics loom large. What happens next might truly amaze you. Look for people to thank. None of us experience anything good without the generosity of those around us. Gratitude is part of what keeps people helping one another, part of how we create relationships, and part of how we come to know beauty in this world. Don't let a day go by without saying thank you to someone somewhere. And especially, don't let a day like today go by, one where we recognize development and transition, without thinking about those who made your own development possible and tell them they did so. Some of the people who contributed to your success are here with you today. Some of them are sitting right next to you. Some of them are sitting behind me on this stage, and some of them are in the audience behind you. Tell them what they did. Let's get back to the narrative form. What will happen if you seek a story of friends, not enemies? Do you think your story will be boring and that there will be no winners? Well, a few weeks ago, we had our alumni reunion weekend, and we had alumni here celebrating anywhere from their 5th to their 55th reunions. They were back on campus reconnecting with the college and with one another. While on campus, the alumni honored Ellie Winkleman from the class of '07 with the Outstanding Recent Alumna Award. In her acceptance speech, Ellie told her story about the creation and development of a nonprofit organization, Challah for Hunger, a student-run challah baking group that donates proceeds from the sale of traditional Jewish braided bread to social justice causes, as well as her most recent venture, Craft, a walk-in art studio for adults. There was not a single enemy or villain in Ellie's story unless you count airports. She really doesn't like airports. But what about it instead was a wonderment about all those who purposefully and accidentally facilitated her journey, those who believed in her, and those who frankly didn't understand what she was doing, but supported her and respected her choices anyway. It was a riveting story, even without those villains, because it illustrated the power of humanity, generosity, and kindness in our ability to improve lives, communities, and society. So I ask you, class of 2019, who will shape your story and whose story will you shape? Whose journey can you facilitate, and how will you and others evolve along the way? There are, of course, so many answers to those questions for each and every one of you. But I know that the journey will be more gratifying and the destination much more worth attaining if you have been seeking friends, not enemies. So class of 2019, seek friends, seek them often, seek them openly, celebrate it when you find them, and cherish them forever. And so now, with your tassels on the other side, let me be the first to congratulate you on your newly awarded degree. Congratulations, class of 2019. Graduates and audience members, please stand and join conductor Chuck Comm and the Women's Vocal Ensemble in their singing of Thy Many Gifts. Thank you so much, Professor Comm and the Women's Vocal Ensemble. For everyone here, I invite you to join us at the strawberry reception and dinner dance. I ask that the audience remain standing until the recessional is complete. Yes, we are going to begin the recessional. We will start with the platform party. We will exit the stage, followed by the faculty, and then by the graduates, and then we will see you at the strawberry reception. Family and friends, thank you for joining us and for your support. And to the class of 2019, congratulations again from your alma mater, Scripps College.